So after having checked out this Tuol Sleng prison, otherwise known as S21, my only conclusion that this is a bloody, emotionally intense visit ever. Personally, I cannot see why anyone in their right frame of mind would actually come here and check this place out as part of their vacation. It is just way too emotionally depressing and disturbing. So if you want to have a good time in a holiday destination, this is definitely not one of them.
After spending almost a week in Siem Reap, Lyvonn and I made our way to Cambodia's capital city, Phnom Penh. In contrast to Siem Reap's ancient splendor and grandeur, Phnom Penh holds a grim and dark history. On arrival at the capital city of Phnom Penh, the heavens open and out comes the tears from the sky as if trying to convey the griefs they have harbored for decades. After a much needed rest, Lyvonn and I headed to Tuol Sleng, a place that was once a school, an ex-torture prison, and now a genocide museum.
Well, at one glance, this place just looked like your typical Southeast Asian secondary or high school. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case. I'm now standing in the grounds of Tuol Sleng, a place that has a very dark, grim, and ugly past. It is a place of torture, a place where confessions were actually forced upon, a place where Pol Pot implemented his Khmer Rouge regime.
It is not easy walking along the corridors at Tuol Sleng. Every turn and corner has a disturbing story, ever ready to leap at the unsuspecting visitor. I'm not sure if my mind was playing tricks at me, but there is a lingering stench around the place that makes me feel sick, and I have to admit I did gag on several occasions. Perhaps one of the most prominent fixtures at Tuol Sleng are the torture chambers and its infamous metal bed frames.
Now this room, just like the many other rooms that you find in Tuol Sleng, are torture chambers, a place where prisoners are actually tortured and extracted for information. And being here at the moment, it just gives you this a bit of an eerie feeling, simply because the beds where the original prisoners are actually chained to, the shackles that they are bounded to, everything is still in its original position where they were many, many years ago. And in some of these chambers, one can even notice the blood stain that are the original blood stain on the floor itself. And to my right here, an image or a photographic depiction of the actual victim that was photographed moments after the Vietnamese armies invaded Cambodia itself.
As you walk along the courtyard and into the prison cells, you will no doubt come face to face with one of the many other torture devices used by the Khmer regime. This one in particular caught my attention. Prisoners passing out during interrogation sessions were first strung in mid-air, then dipped upside down into a giant vat containing sewage water and matters. This is done so either as a means of torture or to awaken the already unconscious individual. Moving further down the other building blocks, you will find yourself at the prison cells, a typical classroom compartmentalized into cells of no more than 4 by 6 feet. Prisoners are left here awaiting their fate.
So yes, it is a room with a view. However, in the case of the prisoners of Tuol Sleng, I highly doubt a room with the view is what they are after. From behind these bars, the only glimpse that they can get is just a glimpse into the future of what's going to happen to them. First torture, then convicted of crime which they did not commit, and finally a one-way ticket to the killing fields.
There is also a surprisingly well-documented gallery of victims of the Khmer Rouge. There are rooms and rooms of victims' mugshot, so many of them I lost count. After some time, even the photos of these victims becomes insignificant. Perhaps a glimpse into the state of mind of the members of the Pol Pot's regime. There is, however, one particular picture that caught my attention. This is Chan Kim's room, wife of Sek Sath a high-ranking Khmer Rouge officer who was accused of treason. Seksas, his wife Srung, and their 1-year-old son was all brought to Tuol Sleng prison, where this mugshot of Srung and her baby was taken. I can't imagine what was crossing through Srung's mind when she was told the fate that befell her. I have to admit, it is not easy putting this episode together. The amount of human atrocities I've experienced today is far too much for me. After visiting Tuol Sleng, Lyvonn and I headed off to our next destination.
I'm now at the Cheung Ek killing fields, where prisoners of the Khmer Rouge regime that ran between 1975 to 1978 are actually brought here to be executed. Directly behind me, a memorial to honor those that was actually executed in the killing fields that we see here. To a lot of visitors, it marks the beginning of an 18-stage interactive tour. However, for those prisoners or those that were executed here, it pretty much marks the end of their life's journey.
129 mass graves scattered across 2.4 hectares, almost 20,000 victims killed swiftly and dumped into self-dug pits as though life has got no meaning. Today, with its wavering trees and birds chirping, it feels like a peaceful countryside. However, if you look carefully at the ground beneath your feet as you walk, you will see evidence of the atrocities that once took place here. Bone fragments gradually reveals itself as the rain washes away dirt that once covered piles and piles of human remains. This is only a fraction of the horrid atmosphere that once was. This spot was once a tool shed, fashioned for agriculture. However, it serves a different purpose here at Cheung Ek. The Khmer Rouge did not shoot people here. Bullets were expensive. Victims were made to kneel in front of their self-dug graves. They are then beaten and hacked to death with axes, hoes, machetes, or whatever other tools that were available. Sometimes, when none of these tools are available, they had to resort to more natural resources, such as the sugar palm trees. If you observe carefully at the stems of the palm trees, you will find jagged edges. These jagged edges are both strong and sharp, particularly useful for slitting the throats of victims. When a person's throat is slit, they are incapable of making sounds. Sometimes, victims are not completely dead when thrown into their graves. Their unconscious bodies are smothered in DDT to eventually complete the job. As for babies and infants, they use a tree, then throw them into the pits, often than not in front of their mothers. As you finish your tour around Cheung Ek, you will come back to the monument dedicated to the victims who suffered under Pol Pot's regime. In this monument, you will find a case containing the remains of the victims found here in Cheung Ek. This type of monuments can be found across Cambodia, 80 of them in total. Each of them once mass grave just like the one here at Cheung Ek. But this number is just a fraction of the total mass graves found here in Cambodia.
Okay, and that's pretty much all the time we have left for this episode of One Last Stint. Now, if you really enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a comment down below. And if you're keen to wait for our next episode to come out and be notified as soon as it becomes available, click on the subscribe button over there. And if you'd like to check out our previous episodes on One Last Stint, right here. That's pretty much it, boys. So have a safe travel, and I'll see you in our next episode.